Conversations about moving, regional airlines, pay cuts, and family and friend support. Get ready while we land the plane on this very important piece that goes along with the pilot wife life. These topics come up constantly with my pilot wife clients, as well as in forums and groups. I'm Jackie Ulmer, an aviation professional and pilot wife for over 30 years. I've experienced and lived through a lot of this. Grab the Pilot Wife Checklist over at pilotwifechecklist.com. So, how to make decisions around moving? What if they're still with a regional airline? Do you still consider moving? Does just the pilot move? Does the entire family move? What about family and friend support, especially if you have a connected network because you have children? Maybe you work full time. Quality versus quantity time for you as a couple, for you as a family. There's so many different things that we have to weigh out when we're considering moving. And not the least of which, quite often it can become the pilot wife or partner who's the one who's always starting over with a career. They have to quit an occupation, move to another town, apply for jobs, go through the whole process of that. Now, I want to start with really instilling a couple of key pieces in your brain and in your thoughts as you ponder this. And I'd love for you to write this down and remember this. Opportunity lies in everything. Really and truly, there's opportunity if you stay where you are, and there's opportunity if you choose to move, relocate, etc. There are truly no mistakes. Now, I know I already feel the resistance through the Ethernet, if you will, when I say that, but there truly are no mistakes. And I believe that because I believe that we're all on a journey in life, and every decision that we make takes us to a new spot. You can't really look back because you're not going that direction. So the only thing you can do is know that the decision that you made in the moment for the time was the right one. And it's going to take you to the next stop in the road, stop sign, fork in the road, turning point, whatever it is. So remember that there's no mistakes. Now, I remember shortly after 9/11, we were faced with the decision to move or what to do. We were living in Phoenix. My husband was based in LA, and a lot of things changed right after 9/11. Now, interestingly, we had been considering moving out to that area so he could get rid of the commute. Even though Phoenix to LA is an easy commute, it's still a commute. It still eats up a lot of time. We had literally closed the chapter and decided we were not moving to California. We were staying in Arizona. Our children went to an amazing charter school. We loved all of that. We had great neighbors and friends. We were very, very settled in our community. We had a church. I mean, there were so many things that were right about the community. So we actually went to California just as a couple, didn't bring the kids, made a final decision. We were staying put, found a piece of land, put a huge chunk of money down on the land and the house, and had started the construction process. And interestingly, we were just about, 9/11, if I remember right, was on a Tuesday. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. It was on a Tuesday, and I believe it, and my husband was actually flying home that morning. He was midair when the whole thing happened, and then didn't get home till Friday and had to turn around and go back to work on Saturday because of the way the schedules worked. That's a whole nother conversation. But that next Thursday, we were set to go put another big chunk of money down on this home. Well, 9/11 happened. We couldn't meet the appointment because my husband wasn't home. I didn't even rebook it. And a lot of things transpired during that time. His commute got very difficult because for a time you couldn't jump seat on another airline. We were with American. American was not doing nonstop flights between Phoenix and LA. It was America West and Southwest. Whole nother story, but he could fly on the airplane. He couldn't fly in the cockpit. So you could jump seat, but there had to be a seat open in the back for them to put you on. And it was really affecting his commute time, his ability to know that he could get there in time, and all of that. And so we ultimately walked away from a big load of money because we got none of that money back. And we made the decision to go ahead and move to California. I was A little excited because I had spent my entire life wanting to move to California. Now I finally was getting that. And I wasn't really sure I wanted it because I loved my children's school. I loved the community. I loved so much of what I had built and developed then. But we went ahead and moved. And in April of 2002, we moved. Actually, the very end of April 2002, we moved. Everything fell into place. We went over there, we found a house. They gave us 30 days to close. We were like, oh my gosh, our house isn't even really ready. But we had recently remodeled it, went back to Phoenix, put it on the market within like 3 days and had a buyer, and they wanted it within 30 days. Like literally the gods aligned to make everything happen for us. And that's why I say there's opportunity in everything. I wouldn't have dreamed that everything would have happened like that. So what I really learned through that is you've got to make a decision and you just roll with it. There's going to be anxiety. There's going to be fear. There's going to be emotions. But the more that you learn to manage that anxiety, not push it away, not run from it, but truly manage it, and the better you get at managing fear, the better you're going to handle any situation that's put in front of you, the better you're going to handle life, and you're going to role model this for your children, other family members, and others. So this is a skill set that I really want to encourage you to begin to build on. All right, with that out of the way, let's talk about step number one. The first thing, depending on where you are in your relationship. Now, if you're dealing with this right now, I realize it's the heat of the moment. But if you're just in a budding relationship or newly married or wherever you are, the first step is to begin to have these conversations before you're actually faced with the decision. Now, I know that seems like common sense, but we fall in love, we live this dream life, everything's rosy. And a lot of times we do not have the foresight to have those kind of conversations before they become relevant. Now, we were fortunate we had already been discussing moving. We were both game for it, but then we had also agreed to stay put. All right, so what you want to do is you want to have those conversations ahead of time. So plan ahead, clear the schedule. You be the one to instigate the conversation. Just say, hey, Tuesday, you're off. I'm off. After we drop the kids off at school, let's go have coffee. I'd really like to talk about our future, your career, my career, our family goals. I'd really like to open up the big picture of where we see our life taking us with regard to all the moving parts that fit into it, not just the pilot's career. Because moving is such a big part of aviation and can be such a big part of it, having plans, agreements, boundaries, and conversations before you're actually faced with it can be so helpful. So a lot of things factor into that. And that, again, depends on where the pilot is in his or her career. Is changing airlines potentially on the table? Will there be pay cuts to do so? Will there be demotions, possibly moving from a left seat back to a right seat? Obviously, if you change airlines, with a few exceptions, that's very commonly what happens. So demotions, equipment changes, all of those are potentially part of the aviation and commercial airline gig for sure. And then commuting, reserve, long call, short call, budgeting, because if you do decide to commute, there's budgeting that has to be factored into that. There are a certain number of hotels or a crash pad in the other city, extenuating meals. I mean, there's just a lot of pieces that go into the commuting process too. So again, schedule that time away from the kids. If you have kids, have coffee, have lunch, whatever you do, don't have alcohol in the mix because things can get certainly very sloppy when we're drinking and having conversations. And sometimes it lowers our inhibitions. Sometimes it increases inhibitions. Whatever the case, when alcohol is entered into the equation, it can get extremely sloppy. And then also have a prepared list of conversation points and be willing to ask those, put those out there, and be a good partner and listener. So start with your emphasis first and foremost on your couple's goals. What are your goals as a couple? What are your relationship goals? And it's important that each of you express to the other what those goals are, how you see yourself in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, 10 years, and into retirement, because you're together for a reason. And I'm guessing that ideally you want to hold on to that relationship. So it's important that each of you express your couple's goals, your personal goals, your career goals, your family and future goals. And nobody's goals are right or wrong. And it's possible that your goals won't 100% align. If you're married or in a serious relationship, you know that compromise is part of the drill. So it's important to understand what his or her goals are for their career and to get them looking and thinking ahead as to what all of those goals might entail. Now, when I say that, this person I'm speaking of is the pilot. Okay. What are their overall goals? Do they want to fly internationally? Do they want to be left seat on a wide body? Do they want, like, and where are they in their career? What is their age range? What's the potential of being able to see that goal through from where you are today to mandatory retirement or different things like that? So, location, training, pay, demands. What's the ultimate job? What's the ultimate equipment type? What's the timeline that he or she can foresee to get there? And then, what's the game plan to do that? What does he or she see as their career game plan to get to that point? And how much moving do you really truly feel that will involve? And what is he or she willing to delay in the greater good of the family, your career, etc.? So it's important to just, have these conversations and talk about all this. Don't allow it to get heated, because we're talking about things that are potentially going to happen, which may not ever come to pass. So the last thing you want to do is have a great big fight over something that's not even happening right now. Okay. So that's an important part of it too. But begin to have those conversations. Discuss what he foresees as his future year to year in his career as a pilot, right? No one can know for sure, right? I mentioned 9/11 already. We don't ever know for sure what's going to wait around the corner. I'm recording this the end of 2024. We had the pandemic in 2020 and then 2021. And, there was some downsizing and layoffs and fears and furloughs and all these things going on. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen to the airline industry? And then there was this huge growth surge, right? And there was a shortage of pilots. That's what we keep hearing. And then recently, I've been hearing about all these furloughs again. So it literally is a profession that is turbulent. It is filled with ups and downs, and it always will be. As long as you can know that right now, understand it, doesn't mean you don't have to agree with it all the time, but it's the reality of how life is. Once you understand that no one can know for sure, you can't know for sure, it will help you to be a better planner. I know for us, we were always meticulous savers, and we always put away for retirement. We put away for that rainy day because we had experienced the commuters, because we had experienced changing airlines several times, moving, because we had experienced 9/11, the lost decade, different things like that. We always had a lot of fun, but also prepared for a rainy day so that nothing would entirely catch us off guard. And I'm so glad that we have done that, because now in the later years, we're enjoying having that good planning that we put into play. So then another thing, how will the two of you go about making decisions together? That's an important part of it, because he or she could make the decision to change domiciles and still commute, but that is still a decision that affects you. So be clear on whether those are decisions that you'll make together, because that is going to require more time away from the home, more time that you're going to be solo and alone, more time that you're going to be a quote single parent, more time that the children are going to be without the pilot, etc. So all of those are important things to weigh into the decision making. What does he or she see as your role in part of that decision making process? And then what is driving his or her decisions as he or she moves up through the career ladder? Do you have children now? Are you planning for children in the future? Discuss those demands of time as a single mom or a single partner. What are the plans for that? Because again, that often requires an extra financial output as well, so that you can also have a little bit of freedom and free time and not have all of that time 100% with your children. Most of us love our children. We want to be there, but we all are human as well, and we need a break. So what is it going to mean to be the only one there for emergencies with the children, when they get sick, when the school calls, all of the different things that go into that. School activities, sporting activities, extracurricular events that your children participate in. And then, does he understand the value that you place on your community of help? As I mentioned, when we were really factoring in moving, now I'm an introverted extrovert. I am not shy, but I am a bit of an introvert, even though no one would ever know that. There's a difference between being introverted and shy. That's a whole nother conversation. I am not shy. I don't have a hard time meeting people, but I love my alone time as well. So all of those for me were fairly easy. And while I ultimately had made the decision to stay in Phoenix, and now we're back in Scottsdale, but after raising our children in California, I knew that I wouldn't struggle to make friends again, but I had a community that I really loved. I had my bunco gal pals. I had my girlfriends that we took girls trips with, book club. I had all the different things, carpool. I had all of that already in play, as well as a great neighborhood, a very active, fun neighborhood. I've talked about my holiday parties, all of that. You can go back and find some of the holiday episodes to hear about our cul-de-sac and our jumping castles on Christmas and all the fun that we made as a community, if you will, in our cul-de-sac without family and others around. So make sure that he understands the value of the community that you've already built and the potential that you're going to have to rebuild that community should you move. Friends, family, parents, his family, hiring help. It takes a village to raise kids, as we hear all the time. And then what would be your solutions to replace that community if you moved? What would be his solutions for that? A lot of times it involves a situation where maybe you live super close to your family. It's easy for you to drop the kids off with your parents for a weekend away with the pilot or to do the things that you want to do. And moving would completely change all of that. That could be great, but it's going to involve some compromise and it's going to involve some big changes, not just for you, but for your children as well, because they've probably gotten very used to this relationship with family as well. And then when to move, right? Do you move when you're still with a regional carrier or do you focus more on commuting? Do you move for an upgrade? Do you move for an equipment change? When are those times that you're going to commit to moving? Again, nobody knows all the answers to that. But if you begin to have all these conversations and sort out and plan for as many scenarios as you can, it's going to make that decision-making process, if and when you're actually faced with it, so much easier. And then I love the Stephen Covey approach and of his 7 habits of highly effective people. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So I like to seek to understand what it is that drives, I still love to know that, what it is that drives my husband in his decision-making process. How does he prioritize things? It might be different than how you prioritize things. What are his wants, needs, and desires? What are yours? How in alignment are those different things? Because again, when we can understand where another is coming from, we can often even help them find or see our viewpoint of alternative solutions and see things from different perspectives. Now, we do the same, right? When we can begin to see things from their perspective, it can open our mind up to, oh, wow, I hadn't ever really looked at or thought of things in that way. All of us come from a point of reference that in many ways we don't control. We were born into a family. We were born into a community, a neighborhood, all the different things, belief systems, church systems, so many different things and values and beliefs that we were raised with. And unless we really seek to explore other ways, very often we end up living in that same box. Now, progression and changes in life often move us a little bit outside of that perspective that we're raised with, but it can be very interesting. So when you seek to have those conversations and seek to understand, the best way to do that is to ask some open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are those things that walk them down the path of seeing things from different perspectives. Why do you see LA as the optimal base for you? Why do you see living on the East Coast as a better option for you? Again, not try to avoid yes or no questions. Try to get them discussing their philosophy and what they're seeing in that. Because again, that helps shift so many things for you often to where you see things from a different perspective. And it also gives you information, and information is a great way to present then alternative perspectives. And then, of course, compromise always comes down to it because they're not going to 100% get their way, and you're not going to 100% get your way, typically is how it works out. But when you ask those questions and you're open to seeing things from their perspective without getting defensive or without pushing your point, it does allow you to mutually often come to the middle ground and have both of you feel really good and comfortable about those decisions. None of this means that you have to change your thoughts or desires for what you want the outcome to be. Keep that in mind too. None of this changes any of that. Even if you listen to their perspective and you lower your defenses and you truly listen, it doesn't mean that when the conversation's over, you're going to be like, wow, now I totally get it from your opinion. And yeah, I'm all about it. Maybe it will. Chances are it won't. And by asking questions, I mean willing to listen and to evaluate things from different perspectives doesn't mean that you're being required to change your opinion. You're just giving each of you the chance to define some goals, define some boundaries, and express what's truly going on in your mind, in your emotional state, and then ideally both of you can respond. And again, all of these conversations are truly best done in person, pre-scheduled, so no one is blindsided. No texting or written context in these main conversations. I am absolutely blown away how many times I will see in a forum or something, somebody post about an entire texting thread they had with their significant other that got very heated, got very ugly, and there was a lot of misunderstanding. And so often that happens with the written word because the only person that gets to put the context in to a text or any type of written communication is the reader. And the reader is not the one that should be delivering context. That's where, so often misunderstandings happen. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, no, I didn't mean for that to have the emphasis placed on this word. I meant for the emphasis to be on that word. And most all of us know what that feels like because we've been in that situation where either we've misunderstood a text message or somebody has misunderstood ours. So at very least, the goal is to hopefully open a line of communication, lower the swords, so to speak, and the goal is to put your couple's relationship truly at the center and then build out from there, adding the other components that your life consists of: his career, your career, the children, extended family, location, hobbies, all the things that make up the complex fabric of our lives, right? It's not just the pilot career, it's not just the domicile or any of that, but all of it hopefully is centered around that couple's relationship first. And just allowing each of you the time and space to speak about how you see the future, how you see your career, his career, the family, all of that helps you recognize any of your own shortcomings, hopefully, and areas of compromise and your own demands and desires, and hopefully they're having the same. And when you can express that to each other, it can be a very rich, very unifying conversation. Now, speaking of conversations, I am a life coach, and if you'd like to have a conversation around this, just go to coach.pilotwifepodcast.com and book a free session with me. Like I say, I have over 30 years as a pilot wife and more than that, even in aviation on my own accord. So I love speaking to these topics. Now, I just use this same exact approach, scheduling time, having talking points to approach my aging parents and convince them to move into assisted living. It's a conversation my brother and I have been having with my parents for the last 5 years with a lot of resistance, and they've reached the point where it's just not an option anymore. They desperately need the help and to be relocated, and they need that community environment as well. So I was really done arguing about it, and I can be pretty bold and bossy, especially in my family. I'm definitely the alpha female over all the males in my immediate family, not my in my family of origin, I should say, not with my husband and my main family, although I can be bossy and controlling there too. But I definitely am the alpha female when it comes to my family of origin. Even my brother, he's like, okay, you start the conversation. I'm like, okay, I will. And that's just the role I have. And I can do it well with my family. But I was done arguing. I was done being bossy. So I basically wrote out a list of questions to help my dad begin to see who is the primary decision maker in that relationship. And a lot of that has to do with my mom's aging brain and some issues there as well. But I had to take him down this list of questions so that he could truly see and answer for himself and take a step back and listen to his own words and these questions to help him see that he was not so challenged taking care of himself, but he was truly challenged taking care of my mom and serving everyone to their highest good. I appreciate all of his efforts. He definitely, as my husband always says, honors the fine print in his marriage contract. But that was important. Different topic, but same basic strategy. You can use the same strategy with children, okay? Now, speaking of children, if you have children, moving does get more difficult for them as they get older. And yes, kids are resilient. They adapt. If you're a military person, you know that well. If you grew up with a father or a mother who were career military, chances are you moved a lot and you understand that resiliency and the adaptation that kids are capable of. And at the same time, it's super cool when you can provide a very safe haven with home and school and community that they can thrive in. Okay. Now, again, going back to that very initial thing, opportunity lies in every situation. So how you view this is often how your children are going to view it too. If you paint it as a positive, you look at all the great aspects, you talk about setting up a new room, paint, bedding, whatever it's going to be, the more exciting and fun and adventuresome you can make that for your children, the more resilient they're going to be and the faster they're going to adapt and maybe even get excited. Again, if you want to have a conversation, I'd love to set that up. Go to coach.pilotwifepodcast.com. That'll take you to my scheduling calendar and you can learn more. Now, depending on when you view this, I do have an entire holiday series on this. So make sure you listen in. How to survive as a pilot wife during the holidays. I'm Jackie Ulmer. See you on the next episode. Do you ever find yourself on the struggle bus with relationships, career, or life in general? I'm a mindset and peak performance coach helping women rediscover their own sense of identity and purpose, avoid turbulence, and put their own oxygen mask on first. Together, we work to get you out of autopilot and create a better flight plan for life and relationship success. As a pilot wife for over 30 years, I've navigated thousands of miles and moments in aviation, mommyhood, business, and life in general. I would love to offer you a free call to see if I might be able to help you too. You can go to coach.pilotwifepodcast.com. And if you have a topic suggestion or a story to share on the show, go to ask.pilotwifepodcast.com. And of course, you'll find all of this at resources.pilotwifepodcast.com. Please take a moment to review and rate the show on whatever your favorite podcast app is. This helps the show get found by others who need what we have here. I'll see you on the journey, and thanks for listening.